Tanse, I'm Kristen Ashkete. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Several chiefs from across Canada have gathered in Ottawa today to prepare for tomorrow's meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. It's regarding Bill C-5, which was passed into law a few weeks ago. It proposes to accelerate development projects like pipelines by speeding up the approval process. The Assembly of First Nations held a press conference before this afternoon's scheduled meetings. Many chiefs have called the passing of the bill as being too rushed, something also used to describe how quickly tomorrow's meeting with Carney was set up. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak said that this is a critical point in the nation-to-nation relationship with Canada. She said First Nations are not against economic growth, but it can't be at the expense of treaty rights and the environment. She also said the AFN stands united with Canada against President Trump's tariff threat. The National Chief hopes Carney brings something substantial to the meeting, like an announcement on infrastructure.
They had a commitment to close the infrastructure gap to 2030. We need traction, and we need to see it on pen to paper with all of us agreeing to that, to close that gap. I think that's a start to this conversation. So we want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they come with something this week, because they can't come here and expect First Nations to accept the status quo any longer.
The Native Women's Association of Canada says its current management has discovered, quote, serious and significant financial irregularities, which the board of directors were not aware of, requiring the organization to act, unquote. The disclosure comes less than a week after APTN News reported the 50-year-old organization was selling off its assets. The statement released on Tuesday and attributed to no one says NWAC has closed all businesses which were not profitable and is in the process of divesting itself of properties that took resources away from our core purpose. The statement confirms NWAC is also selling its Resiliency Lodge in Chelsea, Quebec. The statement goes on to say that NWAC is fully cooperating with the Assessment and Investigation Services branch of Crown Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs, Canada, who are conducting an audit covering fiscal years from 2018 to 2024. NWAC is also conducting an internal review into past practices and contracts to ensure accountability. The organization says it will not be conducting media interviews at this time. You can find more on this story by our Dennis Ward on our website at aptnnews.ca. Decent weather over the last few days has helped alleviate some of the wildfires burning in Manitoba. There are currently 122 active wildfires across the province, with 305 to date. The annual average for this time of year is 221. The northern city of Thompson has received some relief in the past few days as firefighters make great progress on hotspots for the wildfire 14 kilometers away. However, it is still out of control and the residents are under pre-evacuation notice. Fire danger is moderate to high despite the weather. Priority 1 residents from the Island Lake communities of Wasagamak and St. Teresa Point have begun to evacuate. More than 12,000 people from 8 communities are evacuated in Manitoba. 6,000 people are occupying 2,100 hotel rooms in the province, and 1,300 evacuees are in hotels in Ontario. 2 Contrakit shelters in Winnipeg are at half capacity, with 1,100 beds in use. Christine Stevens is with the province of Manitoba.
We just want to remind people that when they're planning to leave or leaving, that it's important for them to pack their medications, their ID, their phone chargers, important documents, baby supplies, and a change of clothes. If you're asked to leave, we ask that you also don't delay. And once you've left, we also ask that you please don't go back until local authorities do indicate that it's safe for you. If you're driving out of a community that's evacuating, it's important that you stick to the routes directed by a local authority and not deviate to back roads or shortcuts. We want to make sure people leaving communities remain safe. We do realize that this is a stressful time, but help is awaiting at reception and congregate shelters should you need it.
Manitoba's Justice Department is reporting that a man has died while in custody at the Winnipeg Remand Centre. According to Manitoba Justice, the unidentified 36-year-old died on July 14th in the downtown Winnipeg Detention Centre. Individuals are placed in the Winnipeg Remand Centre while awaiting trial, sentencing, or transfer to other correctional facilities. The Manitoba government is not providing information about the deceased due to privacy reasons. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has been notified as required by law and will investigate the circumstances. A Calgary police officer was charged on Monday with 2 counts of second-degree murder after an investigation by the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team. Constable Craig Stothard was released with conditions on Tuesday. In May of 2023, 39-year-old Levin Fox and Wesley Davidson, who was the driver of a stolen van, were fired on by police after a slow-speed chase. Both men died. The shooting took place near Reconciliation Bridge. At a rally there in May, Levin's family told APTN News that neither man was armed. ACERT says the evidence gathered during its investigation provided reasonable grounds to believe that offenses had been committed. We will have more on this story in the coming days. Ahead of meetings this week between First Nations and the federal government, the Arctic Gateway Group has announced infrastructure upgrades to meet Canada's growing demand for trade expansion. The Indigenous and community-owned company operates the Hudson's Bay Railway and the Port of Churchill. Speaking to reporters Tuesday afternoon, CEO Chris Avery said construction is officially complete on a new critical mineral storage facility at the Port of Churchill. Once it opens, it will triple the existing storage capacity. In the coming months, the port will be modernized to accommodate more cargo. Avery said the developments have allowed the company to expand their workforce and create more jobs for northern residents. He also announced that a second weekly Wayfreight train is now operating on the Hudson's Bay Railway, a development he says will have both a national and local impact.
There are many communities, Indigenous communities and local communities that are along the rail lines, which will get more service, more frequent service for cargo and goods. So things that we're used to on a daily basis in the cities will now be delivered, more than once a week to those communities, so including Churchill.
A Walpole Island First Nation member in Southern Ontario wants there to be special governance for Offreserve residents. CTV's Michelle Molesky reports.
More than 5,000 people belong to Walpole Island First Nation according to the federal government, half of which don't live on the reserve. Stephen Talking Bear Amaro is one of them.
Imagine just having a one-party system with no voice.
Amaro doesn't feel like people who live off reserve get the same services or attention as those who live on the reserve. He says he's tried to voice his concerns locally several times.
Since 2018, I've been denied services, and I've only been allowed to attend Chief and Council 4 times. And the last time I was served with a cease and desist. That's 4 different administrations. And I don't even know these people. So just because I'm asking questions that they don't like, I'm no longer allowed.
Amaro admits he has sought financial support from the First Nation for a tourism business. But because the chief and council won't talk to him, he says he's been denied assistance meant for Indigenous business owners like him.
I've been essentially just stifled at every which way.
He's also ran in 3 consecutive elections and lost. Amaro is now taking a new approach. He wants to use Section 17B of the Indian Act to create separate representation for off-reserve members. In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson for Indigenous Services Canada says that section refers to the recognition of new bands under the Indian Act. It is not a pathway to the creation of a political party. Amaro is undeterred and is now seeking legal support for his idea from the Chiefs of Ontario.
And it would alleviate a lot of the problems that 50% of the population face, which is transparency, accountability.
It's a problem all over.
Charlene Lavallee is with the Association of Métis, Non- and Status Indians of Saskatchewan.
Our membership is urban-based.
They try to keep members connected with and informed of what's going on in their First Nation, even if they don't live there. Lavallee believes the breakdown in communication and representation might happen because of the structure of who pays for what.
There's transfer payments that go to the provinces for off-reserve band members. And so then things for anybody whose status, you just become a member of generic society.
And while she credits Amaro for trying to create a new political party, Lavallee fears it would just be another layer of bureaucracy. Walpole Island Chief Leela Thomas declined to comment for the story because of the cease and desist order they have launched against Amaro. Michelle Molesky, CTV News.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to watch and read our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A family in BC has been reunited following decades of separation due to Canada's residential school system. We'll be right back with that story. Welcome back to the story now of an adopted man's search for family and identity that led to a shocking revelation in BC. The Okanagan man, with the help of social media, found his father living on Vancouver Island, but their joyous reunion also opened up decades-old wounds. CTV's Ben Milger has this story about a father and son reconciling their relationship with a dark chapter in a residential school where it all began.
This was here at the hall, probably right over there.
Right here, yeah.
You were like, we need a first picture together.
Very early in life, Terry Chase's parents told him he was adopted.
Maybe 5, 6 years old, right? And so I always knew, when I was old enough to understand anyway.
After nearly 5 decades of searching, eventually a post shared on Facebook generated a lead on Vancouver Island. DNA results confirmed the match. At 54 years of age, Chase finally met Dorman Joseph, his biological father, who never knew he existed.
I'm very happy I can try and help Terry somehow with his life and be as close as we can.
Chase's long-form birth certificate includes his mother's name. He's never met Jane Peacock, but obviously his father has.
I was 14 and she was 21 years old. Yeah.
Was it a one-time thing or was it ongoing?
It was ongoing. Yeah, it wasn't just one time.
At the time, Joseph was a student at St. Michael's Indian Residential School in Alert Bay, and Peacock worked there supervising children. In 2006, Joseph sued the federal government and the Anglican Church for sexual assault. The case settled out of court. The school was demolished 10 years ago, but the emotional scars remain. Now armed with new information, Joseph and Chase have filed another lawsuit against the same defendants and Jane Peacock, seeking accountability for what happened at St. Mike's in the late 60s.
You don't hide nothing from nobody. You're going to tell them what it's all about, who I am and who he is.
In a brief statement, Indigenous Services Canada says it is committed to approaching the litigation in a respectful, compassionate, and fair manner. The Anglican Church of Canada did not respond to a request for comment. Jane Peacock's whereabouts are unknown. Despite the dark origins of their story, father and son are focused on writing a positive next chapter. For Chase, that means exploring his First Nations culture for the first time. He recalls the feast his family held the day he met his dad. And the powerful moment when his nephew sang and drummed in his honor.
I was in tears. I didn't know a single word of the song, but it was so powerful that I was blown away.
Chase and Joseph have a lifetime of catching up to do.
You can tell by his baby picture there that he's Joseph, at this photograph right here. He's part of our family. You can tell just by looking at it.
Circumstances kept them apart for decades, but this father and son are finally walking forward together. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
The Canadian Canoe Museum in Peterborough, Ontario houses the world's largest collection of watercraft. For 27 years, the museum has preserved the vessels and shared their culture and history. This year, it launched a Builders in Residence program. And as APTN's Annette Francis explains, its purpose is to engage with Indigenous builders and with craftspeople who share their historical knowledge and skills.
Helen Pelche knows her craft. It's something she learned while working in her community of Fort William First Nation. She's been making birch bark baskets for about 27 years, and she's proud to share. It's a process she learned over time.
When I was working at the Fort William Historical Park, we were learning about making wigwams, and we were paddling the birch bark canoes, and we were learning about baskets and bark and cleaning roots. But I never knew how to gather the materials. I never knew where. I never knew how. And when I started doing that, I realized that there was such a displacement from land and community.
Pelche's workshop is part of the Builders in Residence program here at the Canadian Canoe Museum. She's one of 4 Indigenous artists who've been invited to give hands-on lessons or demonstrations of their work. According to Jeremy Ward, the program offers an opportunity to engage and educate the public.
In October, we have a group coming down from Baffin Island, the Hayakut Society from Iqaluit, and they'll be building a kayak here. They're going to be working with our 2 kayaks, which would be actually kayak for plural, more than one, and they'll also be working with our on-water staff to bring Inuit sensibility to kayaking for teaching the public to get out on the water.
Sandra Moore is an artist from Hiawatha First Nation, located a 20-minute drive south of the museum. She's here to hone her skills with old techniques.
I knew how to make a I knew how to make a birch bark basket, but I've only sewn them together with sinew. And so today we use spruce root, and I hadn't ever used spruce root before. And so I was just excited to be able to come and to learn how to use this spruce root. And so now I have some at home that I can go home and use now. Even though it's old and it's dry, Helen has shared with me how to use it now.
That's what these workshops are all about, says Carolyn Hislap.
So for me, the real impact is just, building some really good friendships and making this, just making this sort of a warm, vibrant, really truly like living space. And that's our vision for this whole Canoe Museum, is that this is a place for everybody.
Pelche agrees it's important work.
When I go into different communities, I meet different makers, and I also meet people who are possible birch bark makers. And so when I do that, I find that, so I was just in Lac La Croix outside of Fort Francis, and probably 5 of the 10 ladies I taught were basket makers. So you actually end up igniting spirits.
Pelche will also be teaching winter bark etching while here. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Peterborough, Ontario.
Cool story, Annette. Thanks for that. We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, 2 weeks after Nahanni Fontaine was caught disparaging an American Sign Language interpreter, she apologized. Is that enough? Your answers are yes or no. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to cast your ballot. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. On the East Coast, Fredericton 30, Charlottetown 28. La Grande River 12, Nain 15. Sunny in St. Jovita at 27, Quebec City 27 and partly cloudy. Sarnia at 27, 31 in London. 15 in Sioux Lookout, Wawa 9 and rain. Partly cloudy in Puckatawagan at 19, Thompson 18 and sunny. 16 in Gimli, Princess Harbor 19. 16 in Regina, Smoky and Saskatoon at 15. 15 in Meadow Lake, La Ronge 16 and sunny there. Grand Prairie 25 and rain, Fort McMurray 25. 19 in Lethbridge and rain, Medicine Hat partly cloudy and 22. Sunny in Tofino at 21, Penticton 32. Rain in Smithers at 28, Fort Nelson 26. 23 in Dawson, Watson Lake 23 and rain. Showers in Fort Simpson at 27, sunny in Yellowknife at 27. Sax Harbor 8, Polituck 14. 14 in Baker Lake and sun there, Chesterfield 9. And the Iqaluit 7, Iqaluit 10. Thanks for staying with us. 35 years after the start of the Oka crisis, the Ganowag Powwow aims to build bridges between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. CTV's Swida Rassi reports.
Allison Deer attends the powwow in Ganowag every year.
It's always an opportunity for us to bring people together, to share culture.
And she makes sure to bring her family along, including her granddaughter.
My whole life, I've been coming since I can remember.
As sounds of the drums fill the air and dancers begin to move with the rhythm, it's a celebration of Indigenous culture. But on Deer's mind, it takes her back 35 years to the Oka crisis. On July 11, 1990, the Sûreté du Québec and Mohawks of Ganusadage and Ganowag met at barricades, following plans to build a golf course on land known as the Pines. There was a 78-day standoff between police, the military, and the Mohawk community. Deer, who was 29 at the time, says she knew what she had to do.
Drop what you're doing. We are going to that front line.
Elder Joe Diom was a spokesperson during the crisis.
It's important that for our people to know about the history and understand that we can't allow this to happen again.
The powwow is the result of the Oka crisis, a way to build bridges between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
So we can always remember to bring people together, not divide.
I honestly think that's a wonderful thing that we get outsiders coming into our community to check everything out.
For the young ones who might not fully understand its significance, the powwow is a chance to learn about their traditions.
It's my regalia. I'm a smoke dancer.
And while many are dancing, no matter their age, one thing is clear: the resilience of the community is stronger than ever. Swida Rassi, CTV News.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, miigwech, masicho, kwana, hai hai. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.